for joining us on this edition of the program. And platform today, our focus will be on the current flooding that we're experiencing in different parts of the world. In fact, in Pakistan, it's a very, very huge problem. And in different parts of the country, it has also been a problem, particularly here on the plateau. Recently, we've had cases in Langtaan South, where roads are being under threat of being washed away. In Pankshin also, we had some communities where 4 people died. Here in just north, in the heart of the state capital, we've had some communities also. And we also have seasonal rainfalls, warnings and predictions about what is going to come. But what are we doing with that information? That's a question that we'll be dealing with. And relating it with town planning, we have also invited an expert and also a developmental control manager who is in charge of the Urban Development Agency in the state to give us information and an insight into what we need to do to mitigate such situation. My name is Yakubu Tani. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Would want you to introduce yourself to the viewer.
Thank you, viewers. My name is Town Planner Kefas John Yilwang, presently the Acting General Manager of Jos Metropolitan Development Board.
Well, he's wearing 2 caps, and it's so much the better for us. He's a town planner. He's also in charge of the Jos Metropolitan Development Board. What consists of actually town planning laws in Nigeria?
Yeah, town planning laws, we had the town planning laws right from even pre-independence and after independence. But we had the 1946 Urban and Regional Planning Law. Right now we have the 1992 Urban and Regional Planning Law. And that law is the one that is national. However, states are supposed to domesticate that law. But presently we have states that have their own laws before now. And we had the 1974 Jos Metropolitan Development Edict, and we also have the 1982 Plateau Urban Development Edict. So these are laws that actually we have for the state, but nationally we have the Urban and Regional Planning, the National Urban and Regional Planning Law that was done in 1992 by the then government of Babangida. And since then, that law is the one that town planners believe will bring changes to the urban and regional development within the country. And states are encouraged to domesticate them. And quite some states have done that, though Plateau State were on the process.
Well, looking at from 1974, 1982, where we had changes, and in times past when you go through Jos, the teen city, beautiful compared to everything now. Given that against the background of recent happenings and developments, what is your take on the state of planning within the Jos Bukuru metropolis? And recently we had, the outgoing administration had also talked about the Greater Jos Master Plan.
Yes, the state of planning on the plateau, thank you for that question. Truly the state of planning on the plateau, we will say is moderate. There's still a lot to be done. But you know, when GMDB was created in 1974, it was created purposely to manage the city and then also implement the Greater Jos Master Plan of 1974. The board, you know, did quite some job on it, implemented up to 33% of that master plan. But you know, master plans have an expiry period, and it expired. When it expired, that is why we have the new Greater Jos master plan that was done in 2006 or thereabout, 2004, 2005. So, but because that law has not really passed through the legislative process or the proper process, the legal process for it to become law, it has not been implemented as it should be. So we have a plan, but not being implemented because of the legal issues. But that aside, what GMDB has been doing and other agencies that have to do with planning, like the Ministry of Land Survey and Town Planning, what we have been doing is that we have been continuing to ensure that the city is growing in an organized manner, though with a lot of problems, because we have to have a plan before we can control properly. Because development control two sides. It's a plan and then you enforce the plan. That is what is called development control. But we have been enforcing the other side without the one that has to do with the plan. And that is why you will discover that there are a lot of challenges in urban management as far as fiscal planning is concerned. So, but we have been doing what we call interventionist, I would say, planning, because we have been taking where there are issues, where there are problems, where there are challenges, to try to see how we can solve that. We have been approving building plans, but you approve a building plan based on a plan. So that is the challenge we have within the city. But development control, in order for you to ensure that it is done, that buildings are built according to even the plan approved, we have been doing that to some extent. But in terms of overall planning of the city and ensuring that the city is growing according to a plan, I think that is where we have the gap. We must ensure that that plan comes into being, and then it goes into the law, and then it is accepted, and then the implementation of the provisions by the various agencies that are supposed to implement will now do it, so that if you break the provision of that plan, you will be sanctioned. So right now, when you break it, when it is not being done, sanction will not be there, sanction will not be effective. So generally, the state of planning, we are moderate, but we need to work harder, and that is what GMDB has been trying to do, bringing out initiatives that will make us still work within the constraints that we have. But I can tell you, it's not easy as a town planner to really do that. But generally, let me tell you, if it is the state of planning in Nigeria, we are trying to even understand the state of planning in the whole country, and specifically in the northern region, because in the southwest and the southeast, they are a bit ahead of us in different aspects of planning. But we are lagging behind, and that is why the Northern Town Planners Forum, which I chair, is now trying to get the state of planning all over the northern region, so that we will know the problems, and then we will now confront stakeholders on it, so that we can now begin to act, positively to solve that problem.
Okay, so Plateau is on the high plains. It's a mountainous areas. Of recent, we've had issues. From 2012, the issue of flooding has become prevalent. Almost year in, year out now, you have issues of flooding in different communities, particularly within the Jos city center. This is occasioned by planning distortions. And how do you relate this to what is on ground and the topography of the state?
Yes, I would say, luckily for us, we are on a higher ground. The highland where we are, ordinarily, there shouldn't be a problem of flooding, because flooding, normally when it rains from upland, it flows to the lowlands. And where there are obstructions along the way, of course, then you have the problems that we have. And that is why we have the problems we have on the plateau. Areas where there are rivers, and like we know, some of the rivers in the north are served from those that emanate from Plateau State. Down the east, Yobe area, Gombe, Yobe area, their rivers actually take their tributary from here, and then also River Kaduna is fed from rainwater from here. So on the plateau, what we really have is that areas where we have the rivers, and especially here in Jos, we discover that is where flooding occurs, and it occurs because the natural plains, or the flood plains that we call it, are blocked, or buildings are erected within those plains, and then thereby constricting the river channel. And once there's a constriction of the river channel, anytime there's heavy rain, definitely it will flow. And when it flows with a force, because it's driven by gravity, and so anything along the path will be affected. So that's why flooding is when rainwater, or when water that is supposed to flow within a river oversees its bounds, and when it oversees and now floats dry land, that is where we have flooding. So we only call it flooding when it now goes into homes, goes into even spaces that were dry, or most parts of the air are dry. So the challenge we have now is that we have about 2 different rivers. The one that comes from the River Dilimi that flows right down to go to Yerwa, and then also the one from Chudunwada passing through to Gadabu, right down to through Angwansoya, right to Faringada. Then they join with the ones coming this way, and then it flows, northeast. So these are the areas that we have problems year in, year out, and that is why any blockage, any development that is not where it should be, but rather on the plains, or even on the channel, the drainage channel or the water channel, definitely will be affected. And so that is what we have on our hands right now, and that's what has led to the flooding that we have there, because the channels have been blocked by development, illegal development, I would say.
Yes, His Excellency actually, on one of his visits to the British-American interchange flyover there, did take note of such buildings and gave marching orders. In your agency, the Ministry of Environment, and all development control agencies within that in the states. To what extent are you people working towards ensuring that that is complied with? And also, we do not have fatalities like in most places we've had.
Yes, well, thank God we don't have the level of fatalities that occur in other areas. And the reason may be because when it happened before, we had engaged the community, and we sat with them, especially around the Rikos area, where His Excellency saw the development around that area. We had engaged those communities, and we sat with them, the leaders, both youth groups, religious groups, and other community leaders there, and even land owners, building owners there. We sat with them severally, where we engaged them on the need to move to higher grounds, on the need to clear out of that places. We served them with notices, demolition notices, so that they will move out of those places. Sadly, or let me say, some actually moved. Some moved, and that is why maybe the fatalities is not what we have seen, because some actually moved and left those areas. It is those that refused to leave, and some that even came behind to want to also build within that. Those are the buildings that were affected, and definitely that is not what should continue. So after his visit to that place, we went around. We were there because we know the places. We have marked those areas. We have sat with the people around that area, and we have actually told them that of the risks, because they are where it is high risk. So we have served the notices. We are even now continuing to serve on areas that may be not affected immediately now, but can be at high risk. We have gone ahead to serve demolition notice, removal notice, and we are engaging the communities and those people there not to continue to stay, but to leave. The only thing that GMDB will have to do is to go in there and demolish. And that is what we are setting in motion to do. Because if we don't demolish, as I've said in other programs, if we don't demolish, the rain will remove it. And when it removes it, it will be at a time that maybe you are not aware. It can be in the night. This one happens in the daytime. And that is why not many fatalities were done, because it happened actually in the daytime too. So people had some warnings and they were able to move. But it can happen in the night. And so we will not want that to happen, and that is why we are setting in motion the necessary procedures to remove those structures. And not only that, we are even going to other areas, especially the other side of Tudunwada to Gadabu. We have also served notices on them, and those that we have served notice, if you are listening, we are not taking it lightly. Those notices will be enforced. And so it is better you begin to make arrangements to get out of those places.
So if I may come in here, after having meetings, consultations with stakeholders, community leaders, everybody within communities, and yet we have these people building, how difficult is it for your organization to monitor and also stop them from even continuing? Because it's better to stop than to also allow it happen before you do it. How difficult is this?
Well, if I say how difficult is because they actually built not during working hours. They built during weekends. They built from 5 in the evening or 4 in the evening. Once they know that our eyes are not there, they start the construction. By weekend, they have covered some ground in their construction. You will be surprised Now what we see is that within 2 days, you will be surprised at the level they have gone to. Mostly they do that within those periods. But we don't just keep quiet. We go there, we still serve notices and mark. Because our notices have a period before enforcement. It has to pass through the period before we can enforce. If not, we'll be against the law. So once we give them those notices and we mark, they still continue. Because they take the window of opportunity of that period to still continue. Because we are not supposed to take any action until the expiration. If we take an action before the expiration, it means we can be sued and then compensation paid. But sometimes we don't wait for that. We take proactive action and then ensure that they stop where they are. But what has happened actually is that it's not also just here on the plateau. In fact, we relate with our own professional colleagues all over the state, and we have the same problem. In fact, just recently, 2 days ago, we were relating with those in Benue and those in Katsina who were also affected by this flooding. All that we normally get is that the low-income earners, because they see that place as cheap to get the land and then build the way they want.
Do they actually buy those?
They sometimes buy from people that are land speculators. They do buy from them. Definitely, we have instances where they buy from them because people will just speculate and say, yes, it's our place. They just sign papers that are bogus, and then the people believe that. And so a lot have been swindled in that direction because there is a limit to which we can allow development, both lands and survey and JMDB. You cannot build within 15 meters of the drainage channel. And if you cannot build within 15 meters within the drainage channel, it means land that is there is not developable. It means it cannot be approved. And so you cannot go ahead and acquire and build. You'll be wasting your money. Because it is either we come and remove it, or when there's a flooding like that, the floodwater will remove it. And where it happened, floodwater actually removes some structures there. But back to what we are actually saying about whether it's difficult. Yeah, we recognize that we don't have enough personnel to really monitor. We recognize that, and that is why we have a new initiative where we are working with professionals that are within the built environment, that they will partner with them so that where there are developments coming up illegally in areas that we know it should not happen, we take action to move in. But when they relate with us, when they report to us, then we move that. So we receive reports from different professionals and even some communities that, hey, something's going on there, then we move in. Apart from that, they work during the weekends, work during public holidays, and before you know it, they have erected. And then, most of those places, you will discover that the machines or the plants to go and demolish may not be able to, because it's inaccessible. And because it is not easily accessible, it is difficult to just stop them right from the foundation stage. And that is just the problem we have because of the nature of the terrain and where machines cannot go there. So that is the challenge we have. So even the ones that we now want to remove, we have to find means of making sure that those places are removed. So that's the challenge of the terrain actually is there that makes it difficult for us to control, to the latter.
With all this information that comes in from NIMET and other professional bodies, how much more do we need to have such situation on our hands yearly? Because for every rainy season, these situations are going to occur. Not in the villages or where you have, like you mentioned earlier, but this is due to man-made difficulties put on the way.
Well, we will continue to have it if certain steps are not taken. We will continue to have it. Even though, let's categorize. There is some type of flooding that is difficult for any action to be taken, for that. Especially where you have heavy rainfall over a long period that will, cover almost an entire village like we see in Pakistan. Because in Pakistan, almost 2/3 of the whole country is inundated by water. And though their own cause has to do with the glaciers that are melting, and then, they are bounded by the ocean. And then when it overflows, definitely water will, move inwards. And so when you have that kind of situation where it is so massive that covers a lot of ground, so the question may not, I mean, it may not just be because people have blocked the drainage channels or whatever. It may not just be that. So that is different. But the ones that happens at a scale that can be controlled and managed, thank God, that is the one that we always meet. So in the first place, what we are actually working on is a flood risk, plan. Because once you have a flood risk plan, not just for the city, but the whole state, where such areas are identified, properly researched, studied, and identified, on a plan or in a plan, and then from the map and whatever, you already know the vulnerable areas. Once we understand and know the vulnerable areas, and we take statistics of the buildings that are already within the boundaries that can easily be affected. And so once that one is done, then we now move into another level of planning. First, are they going to be relocated to where? That needs a plan. And then secondly, when will they be removed? That also needs a decision at another level, because it's going to be massive. It's going to affect people in terms of where they will stay, if they go out of those places. And so it has to be coordinated. If that one is done, I believe, and then resources are committed to this action. The resources at different levels. First, even to the authority to be able to carry out that kind of assignment. And then secondly, when demolition will be done, of course, requires a lot of resources. And then at the end, if the decision of government is for them to be relocated, then a place has to be found, and then they will be moved to that place. That is the sequence of events that, if
more or less like an urban renewal.
Well, the urban renewal is much more general. That includes areas that we have slum development, blighted areas. That one is general, but this one is what we call an action area plan. In planning, we call it an action area plan. So that action area plan, focuses on areas where we have issues. Flooding, it's an action area plan. So there is a plan that planners have designed and how to go about that. And so, that plan has to be prepared, and then with recommendations, definite recommendations on how that can be handled. That is the long term, maybe short to long term, because if we start now, then within a period, we'll be able to have the plan, and then that plan, when implementation starts, then we'll begin to address those areas all over the state, not just the city. Then we'll begin to address those areas in a planned manner. And that's why fiscal planning has a great role to play in addressing this situation.
Well, we've had these situations on our hands, and we would want that nothing happens like that. So what would be your message in closing to people of Plateau State, especially those in areas that have this problem seasonally?
My message to them is simple. Save your life. Save your life. And save your goods. Move out of those grounds. If you are in doubt, contact us. But we will be there. We will not wait for you to contact us. We'll be there. We'll still work with you. We'll still meet you. And we'll still ensure that a solution is found so that you can get out of the place. Because this thing can actually happen any time again. Because the prediction we have, it's rain that we don't know when it will end. But then the prediction is that we are going to have heavy rain. And we have seen it. And so if you think it has passed, and then you go back and rebuild like some are doing, definitely we are stopping them. Please don't continue. Get out of those areas, those low-lying areas that are where I have mentioned, starting from the Tudwada, Twashik, down to Gadabu, to Faringada, Yelwa, and then from the Dilimi River, right through Gangere, Dilimi, down to Bauchi Road, and Gwanrimi, right there, all those that are within the banks of the river. Once you know you are within 15 meters of that river, just know that you are at the area that is at high risk. And so you need to begin to plan to move. That is my message to you. While government is there to give you guidance, and then also to help you to know the risks and then to take action. I know if you do that, you save your life and you save your goods, because a lot of goods were wasted and lives, affected. So, and once you are dislocated, not in a planned manner, in an emergency manner, it means you find it difficult for you and your family. So it's a complete social dislocation. So it is better to leave that place. And anyone that's contemplating, going to build when they leave, and then you see that, oh, we have space now, it has cleared place, now we have space. Please, we are in trouble, because during the dry season is where, at the time that they actually carry out those kind of activities.
Okay.
They believe that the place is dry, the river is right there, it will not reach where they are building. No, that's dangerous. 15 meters away from it, check. If it is less than 15 meters, just don't buy any land or accept any land there.
Thank you very much, sir. And for the public, this is an important message for you to take note of, to mitigate or avoid loss of life, and also the loss of resources you have put into building. It may come to waste at the end of the day, and it's going to be something. Government doesn't have resources at the moment to begin to meet expectations of people right here and there. What they say is enough for the wise, and I think we need to take note from this and also obey town planning rules. We need to see back our old Jos city that was one of the most beautiful in Nigeria, and I hope that you people will work on that so that we recover our dear Jos Plateau State. This is the much we can take. Water, they say, fellas say, water no get enemy, but water can also be dangerous if you mismanage water. I'm Yakubu Tali. Next week we'll be here with another guest.